Hi, I'm MZ, a Just Dancer that you may know. I received the Nintendo Switch 2 from Nintendo yesterday. Thank you very much, Nintendo. And the first thing I did was try Just Dance. So if you're a Just Dancer and you're wondering whether this upgrade is worth your while, here's everything I found that was different between Just Dance on the regular Switch and the Switch 2. So the first thing that I have to bring up about Just Dance on the Switch 2 is the load times are so much better. I'll insert some footage, hopefully, which will be appearing now. And basically, my friends list loaded all my friends all at once with no issue for the first time since I've owned Just Dance 2023. Now, this is just a relief. This is such a big quality of life change. Also, I tried to invite my friend to a lobby. They were on just the regular Switch rather than the Switch 2. And it was still really fast. The time it was taking for the request to get to them obviously was a little bit longer because they had to deal with their own load time. But overall, I made the lobby in half the time. And I will point out as well, the lobby did not crash once. Even when we went idle for a long period while I was looking at some other things on the Switch, it kept us in the lobby without a single crash, which is a freaking delight because trying to do things with friends has been a rough time. Also, just loading the songs in general is great. I spent a little bit of time just trying to flick through the song list just to see if it could keep up. And this is amazing. It doesn't take anywhere near as long for it to buffer the thumbnails. And to be fair, I could scroll up and down pretty swiftly with no problem at all, which, again, it's just like these little quality of life things that I kind of was taken for granted before Just Dance 2023 dropped. And now it's back and I feel like I can actually utilize the interface to its fullest advantage. It just feels really good. I crashed out a bit on stream because I was just so shocked by the improvement. The other thing as well was the randomizer was so much easier to use. Firstly, it was easier to scroll up to the randomizer. I know a big complaint for Switch users was that you needed to get all the way to the top to go back to the randomizer, and it just wouldn't go fast enough. Now you can just hoy it up. It's super fast. You click, you click, you click, you're playing the song. And the speed at which you can make that happen is so much more efficient. And I know for the average player, it might not have been like the worst thing, but also once you realize how quickly it goes now, it was quite bad. It was quite bad, but clearly the hardware just couldn't keep up. I know a lot of people kind of saying all this stuff with the friends list and the loading times was to do with Just Dance. It clearly was a hardware issue. We did an experiment after that of loading in at the same time, and when it had me come up with an X, I pressed the button on the timer and then stopped it when it came up with the score for Astro's first move. And it was about 5.5-ish seconds longer for Astro to hit their first move than it took me. Now, you're thinking 5 seconds. 5 seconds is a long time. But when you actually sit, if I made you sit here now for 5 seconds, not doing anything, you would be frustrated. And I think that 5-second difference is actually really massive. The next one I really enjoyed, and again, it's very much a quality of life thing, is the addition of the ability to use this little guy as a mouse. So basically with the new Switch, you are able to utilize this little guy as a little mouse. Now, it does not work on the main menu of Just Dance. You can't just like go through and click on songs. But the point where it works, it made me so happy. So basically, you can use this by just popping it down on pretty much any surface. So actually, the other day, I was doing it just here because it was the most accessible, honestly. But I also could do it on my desk. I actually even tried doing it in my hand, which also worked. And basically, when you go in and you go to the search function and open up the search bar, you can now put your controller down as a mouse and just click the letters. And you're all thinking, and that's not a big deal. Do you know how much easier it was than scrolling to every single letter and having to select every single letter individually and scroll back to the next letter, and I could just go boop, 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 boop. And then add in that the load time is so much faster. I'm hoping I have clipped this correctly, but basically I searched for X's at warp speed. Obviously, there's still going to be the issues with sometimes the search does not give you the answer that you want. But at least when you need to go back and change it now, you're not going to cry about it because you can just click all the buttons that you need. The other place it also works when you're searching friends. So I did a test run of just searching a random friend that I was already friends with, just to see what would happen. And it worked in there too. So when you're adding your friends now as well, you don't have to sit and type in, especially because, let's be honest, some of us have long usernames. You can now just boop, click, 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 done. And because again, the friends list loads faster, the whole thing just feels really, really efficient. Another thing I want to talk about is I did get sent as part of my little package this little guy, which is the Switch camera, which can be used for game chat. Now, no, it is not going to track your scoring before somebody asks. I know you're all going to ask. It does not. But I don't think it needs to. I'm going to be entirely honest. I think this is not the kind of camera we want tracking the movements. I honestly just don't think it would do the best job at that. But the thing that I think this will be amazing for, and I did a little trial run, I kind of want to set up a lobby like this, so stay tuned for that. Basically, in game chat, you can have your camera on and be playing the game. So what you would be able to do is have you and your friends' cameras on who are in the lobby with you playing Just Dance, and play Just Dance, being able to see your friends and being in the same lobby. And that is just delightful. I think this is so good for the community because you'll be able to actually connect with people a little bit better. Lobbies were great as they were, but obviously a big part of what Just Dance is dancing with people. And you will finally be able to feel like you're dancing in the same room with people who aren't in the same room. And something that I think could potentially be really fun, obviously this isn't a feature right now because Just Dance haven't changed the game for Switch 2, but in the future, if they wished to, I could see there being a use for this. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll see if I can find somebody's clip. In Mario Kart, you can actually see a little face reaction of like people overtaking people and like being mad in their little cars. And I could see something like that for something like World Dance Floor, little avatars of people that you could see through the Switch camera. I could also see us getting like a little dance recap like there used to be with the Xbox Connect and things like that. So I think for like visual fun things, this could have so many uses. But right now, the main one that I can think of that I tested and would really enjoy is the ability that you'll be able to have all your friends on camera and be playing your game. Now, the only thing is you cannot in-game chat screen share Just Dance. I imagine it's copyright things, but you don't really need to if you're all in the same lobby anyway. So you'll have like, I'll insert what it would kind of look like. I also think this could be amazing for content creators. If you're a content creator and you're watching this, I think this could be a really great way to not have all the latency that we currently have. Because the amazing thing about the Switch 2 is it is very low latency. And as I was dancing on the game chat cam, it was pretty much instant with my game. So I imagine if you had everyone on a Switch 2 in a lobby together dancing on game chat, you would probably be more in sync than when you just try and use stream together. So I think the only issue that I had with this was the microphone. You would need to mute on each dance. But again, if you're playing with friends and you're all talking to each other in between songs and you can play in the lobby together, I just think it's going to be such a wholesome addition. And I was not, I'm going to preface this now, I was not sold on this camera. I saw this camera at the event, didn't really see any time that I would be bothered about using it. And then when I realized what I could do in Just Dance with it, kind of got excited. I'm going to go back to this real quick. I do not want them to use this for scoring. The way that it works for the party games that they have, I just don't think this is going to have the capability to score you accurately. While on the topic of scoring, I think it makes sense to talk about holding the new controller. Side by side, these are the two different JoyCons. Yes, clock my little Jack Rose sticker. Just Dance, please make more of these. This is just my little, if you're not Just Dance, you don't have to listen to this part, but please, look how naked it is. And look how cute Jack Rose is. Please. Okay. now you can return if you weren't Just Dance. So, although this one, when sort of distanced from this one, you would think is bigger, it is not. The beauty of this one is actually slimmer than this one. As you can see, if I hold them next to each other, the old one is actually quite a chunk wider than the new one. Also, side by side, thickness-wise, this one is kind of like just a smidgen slimmer, just a smidge, or at least it feels that way. Also, something I can adamantly say is this is lighter than this. Also, the feel of this in your hand is nicer than this. The one thing that I really, really love about it is I love that we don't have this chunky piece when wanting the wrist strap. It's now just a really, really flat center thing. And also the way that this is built, one of the things I like, so something I used to do all the time, I don't know if anyone else did this, was press these buttons mid dance and or even the front buttons, because I would have to cling onto this thing for dear life because it's just so chonky in my little hand. So I would cling onto this like crazy and then press buttons. I danced a few songs on stream and off stream, and I did not press one button I was not supposed to press, because all these buttons in here are kind of hidden. They're like set a little bit back, so if you want to press them, you are pressing them more deliberately. You can kind of see that these kind of buffer that button. So you're not going to just press these accidentally. Also, the buttons on the front just, like, they're not in such an inconvenient place for Just Dance. I'm not naturally covering them anymore. That extra little bit of length is actually helping my hands sit in a better place than when I was holding this. And you can kind of actually could see that actually a lot more than I thought. So you see how much my thumb and finger overlap here compared to here, and that you can see that my thumb kind of sits over this button because of the length, whereas now my hand can sit below all the buttons on this hand. Now, the one thing I will say about it was I did do some scoring tests. I obviously had my old scores with my old Switch controller. I actually haven't used camera scoring on the song that I tested with. I tested with X's. You're going to hear that a lot. X's was my default because it's the one song that I know really well. Now, I will say, in all the opening section where I got all the moves correct, it gave me a perfect every time. But when I did go wrong, which on a couple of the test runs I did go wrong, it called me out. And I'm kind of happy with that. Sometimes I feel like scoring can be a tad forgiving, and I did not feel forgiven. There was one move in particular that I messed up, and normally it would just give it to me anyway. It did not. It did not give it to me. It was like, no, what were you doing? So I am grateful for that, in that I felt like when I was doing the dance right, I was seeing perfect, but when I knew I was doing the dance wrong, I was not. Also, I have since beaten my own score using this controller. I then pulled out my old Switch and tried X's again on this one, and I cannot beat what this one came out with. And I'm a high energy dancer as well. I'm not a low energy dancer, I'm very high energy. So I'm just gonna talk about this little piece a second, because I know there's been some concerns from people, at least there were concerns in the stream, and there's a few questions on Instagram again about this piece. This piece is not gonna come out without a freaking fight. Like, you have to pull it with a level of force. It also just clips in. It locks in at the top, you'll see this little button go down. And like, if I want this off, I have to, like, I can't, there we go. I have to pull it from the top with force. If you're using it for Just Dance, it is not just flying off. The next thing I think we need to talk about is it visually better? And the easy answer is yes. The game is smoother. I found the way the map went through its motions was smoother, but another thing that I really liked was the map looked prettier. So there's a lot of things on the Switch that you can do to improve the visual quality. The main one being that if you have an HDR capable device, you can up the quality by quite a lot. And the natural upscaling that the Switch has given to all compatible games makes really quite the difference. I think the main thing we noticed was the colors are so much brighter and prettier. And on some of the newer maps, it was even more obvious. We played Apple, and I could see the wrinkles on her skirt. I don't think I've ever noticed the wrinkles on her skirt. The other cool thing was I was able to utilize the entire resolution of my screen. It took me a minute to realize, but I actually didn't realize since I was playing off stream, and I was like, hang on a minute. The map actually fills my entire display. The other thing I am very grateful to say about the Switch 2 is I did not crash once. So I'm going to take a minute just to show you the Switch 2 in all its glory. So this is the console. The screen is also a lot bigger, and the stand is a lot better. So if you are planning to play Just Dance on the go, you're going to have a little bit of a better time. You can actually visually see the map a little better, even though it's still a handheld and it's not a full screen. So I think that's kind of fun. I definitely want to start doing some Just Dance on the go because of this. And the stand is a lot better too. So the stand can angle as far back or as far up as you want. So if you are wanting to play Just Dance on the go, woo. And it's the screen being larger, it's a lot better. Like, I don't think I ever felt like my Switch screen was small until seeing this. And I have tried to play Just Dance now with it on this mode, and it is playable in this mode. So when you are playing with friends, if you are like in a hotel room or something, it will be a lot more usable for us, and I think that's a great thing. Overall, what I would conclude is if you're not ready to upgrade to the Switch 2, you don't need to. Okay, you'll be absolutely fine on the Switch 1. You can also still play with your friends who have gone on to Just Dance on the Switch 2, and you're not going to have a problem. But I will say, if you are looking for a higher level of quality of life when playing Just Dance, the Switch 2 is kind of a must. The difference is night and day. As a person who has only ever played on the Switch, I think I've experienced maybe Xbox like one time. The Switch needed this. And I think something that I will be excited to see is if Just Dance decide to utilize more of the features available. There is now a lot available to them. But also I think I could now see the ability for the game to have more features. I know for a long time, a lot of people have been asking things like World Dance Floor and other things like that. And I don't think the Switch before, now I'm experiencing Just Dance on the Switch 2, could have handled it. Honestly, I think our devices would have exploded. With the load times, etc. of the original Switch, it wasn't going to ever be possible for Just Dance to reach the potential that I would have liked it to. And I think this change onto the Switch 2 could be really huge for Just Dance if they want it to be. I am interested to see if Just Dance decide to go to giving us higher quality versions of the maps as an option for players, because obviously I know a big part of why the maps aren't made in certain resolutions was because the Switch just wasn't capable of giving us those resolutions. So I would love to see a map made for the higher resolution, but I'd also love to see some of the camera features integrated into the game. Some people maybe Just Dance a bit of an apology, because I know a lot of the problems with friends lists, etc. people were kind of going to Just Dance like fix it, and I'm realizing now I never thought it was for them to fix. I always had a feeling it was the Switch, because I've played other games on the Switch like Palia and Fortnite, which were diabolical. But on the Switch 2 now, I can play both of those games and they work pretty darn well. And I think we've had this hardware limitation as Switch Just Dancers for a long time. And I think once you see it in action, and if you haven't seen it in action yet, please go and watch some streams. I'll be streaming from now on the Switch 2 for Just Dance. And I think once you guys see it and are able to like see the difference, I think you'll see why a lot of people are going to make the decision to upgrade to the Switch 2. But do I think you need to do it in a hurry? No, I don't think Just Dance itself is utilizing enough of the features yet for you to run out and get it. Would I say stay tuned for the 2026 announcements and see if they announce anything extra or any higher quality maps, etc. for Switch 2? Yeah, keep an eye out, because that might be when you want to upgrade. Because we are coming to the end of the cycle now for Just Dance 2025. So I would kind of say you can wait till 2026 drops. I felt like I should do an outro. So if you meet me for the first time today, I'm Emzy. I'm a Just Dancer. I post a lot of Just Dance cosplay covers, as well as other things. I've started talking about just different things that go on with Just Dance, which I'm not really used to, but I'm trying to get used to. If you want to subscribe, that would be cool. Also, my Instagram and stuff are here, my Twitch and all that jazz, if you want to be involved. If you do have any more questions about Just Dance on the Switch 2, please drop them in the comments, because hopefully this helped if you've been kind of on the fence with your Switch 2 purchase.